I just know each year I learned something new. So here we go. It was the early part of the third year, or later in the second, I think. And everything truly was surreal. I was experiencing warfare in spirit, fighting astral projections, fully taking over the spirit world, and unleashing these spiritual hands on wannabe magicians, masking themselves in my energy. After visiting the reader earlier in the year, this was to be a follow-up. Now I felt, with both my memories and powers under my control, we would have a different conversation. No more condescending statements or patronizing remarks. I would say my truth and tell her how I felt. This felt like an acquaintance, maybe even a nemesis I wanted closure from, and it was time to finally close the chapter. But as I said, things never go as planned, and outside forces had other contributions to give. I didn't know about monitoring spirits or being monitored by anyone prior to awakening. When I did, though, I had melodramatic individuals swearing I knew them or cared to even acknowledge them to some capacity. I had wars with fallen deities, angels, demons, or entities of all sorts. At that very moment, I didn't care about secret societies, covens, or any other group. Some of the first things I remembered were fights from the past with old souls I did not resolve things with. In all actuality, though, there were societies and covens telling their initiates to try and steal my physical wealth and properties they stole when I was just a child. The initiates never did their homework, though, and realized too late who I actually was. There's layers to this story. The man, who I consider a father, I spoke about in prior stories, was murdered by a cult leader and his friends. He gifted me this wealth and properties, and an old friend betrayed him, killed him, and stole the money and property for himself. He had one of his hitmen try to sacrifice me, but what is an evil karmic magician to God? He's a weirdo with a mean streak and no power like the group of them. Even with government contracts, energy weapons, immense wealth, books of knowledge, they still could not beat me. The power is me, and I will never relinquish my position. Let me tell you, when I am asleep, all types of practitioners do divination or spell work because they want my gifts and destiny. They are not getting access to the Akashic records, but some information is accessible. It's like they're trying to look deep into my soul to impersonate me, but they can't clearly piece everything together. They do not see the full picture, and they hastily make decisions to just take, and the next thing they do is try and mask themselves in energy, not their own. Worst decision. What happens when Ra, Hera, Ares, Archangel Michael, or Shango awakens in a dilapidated building, sick, homeless, or in a false family because their true bloodline has been hidden or massacred? The power is still there, but now the emotions are imbalanced. Spellwork to cause me to be a low vibrational individual starts to evaporate, but a bit of the malicious residue lingers. I look around and realize the world looks totally different, and the last time I was up and cognitive of who I am was thousands of years ago. Power is called magic, and stories of before are categorized as fantasy, relegated to movies and books to showcase a writer's imagination. In all reality, it's a soul going through a memory they cannot erase, a story consistently playing in their subconscious, unable to leave the memory unfinished, so you go through self-therapy and express yourself through art or written work to change the ending. Even after awakening to my true story and going through spiritual attacks, I thought I knew enough, but I never considered the species I created joined with the enemies of life to destroy my likeness and land, massacre my family, and dilute my bloodline to falsely parade around, masquerading as divinity, doing spell work rituals, creating energy weapons, and working alongside different groups to denounce the righteousness and standard everyone should live by, love and justice. Well, I called the fallen goddess. At first she agreed to do another reading. Again, the cards told her exactly who I was, and even still, she wanted to be disrespectful and purposely called me a name I politely asked her not to. So I changed my mind, and she didn't pick up. Come to find out, she was monitoring me, as well as others around the world, to keep the deities asleep and to be a distraction. She wasn't the only low-level false goddess doing such, but she spoke so much of working with different societies, corporations, and governments and groups to assist them in harvesting energy from old souls. Betrayer and coward, because she couldn't even take being told no. But I would continue on because I knew one day I would come across my soul tribe. That was until a rock fell from the roof of a building I lived in, and an earthquake occurred across the world.